As always, if you have questions, please type them in the chat, and we will take care of answer all of those at the end. We ground everything we do in our best for all strategy, and what we're talking about today falls under the educators. So today what we're going to talk about is pacing, how you can monitor observations, share some resources, and next steps. Observation pacing is based on a combination of the teacher licensure status and the individual growth level or level of overall effectiveness, or LOE score. That is determined by districts choose in their flexibility survey in the summer if they want to use individual growth or if they want to use an LOE score. We have basically two types of licensure status. We've either got professional and practitioner. The pacing is based off of your levels. So you can use this chart to determine how many observations, the minimum observations that are required. It also gives you guidance on if they could be walkthroughs or formal observation, and the minimum observations per domain, and the number of minutes per school year that an evaluator should spend in a teacher's classroom. All teachers have to have at least 1/2 of all of their observations unannounced. So if a teacher is required to have 4 observations, they would have to have at least 2 observations that were unannounced. A minimum of 1 observation shall be announced for all teachers. For teachers scoring a level 5 on individual growth or their LOE, their required observations has to be unannounced. Those teachers will only require 1 observation, and it should be unannounced. All observations using school services personnel rubrics should be announced to keep the students' privacy. Then those will be, you don't need to do an observation of a school services personnel working with a child, because sometimes there's very confidential information there. LEAs and charters using the team model may allow observers to combine domains during their classroom observations, provided they still meet the minimum time, semester, and distribution, and the announced versus unannounced. We actually suggest that using the team rubric that you do combine the domains. The number of required observations for educators who are PYE in the previous year, they are determined by the performance level in the school year that was immediately preceding the PYE. So if a teacher was PYE for 21-22, their 22-23 pacing goes back to their 2021 LOE or growth score. Any non-PYE educator without an LOE in the previous year shall have the maximum number. So if for whatever reason a teacher did not generate an LOE for 21-22, they will have the maximum number of observations for 22-23, unless they were PYE. So a way for you to monitor this, if you are a team, if you use the team rubric, you can monitor this in TN Compass. You go to reports, and you will choose the pacing guide. Make sure you're looking at the correct year. Your location should be there, and I always use the Excel format, and then you click generate. This is a very long spreadsheet with lots of columns. So I've kind of broken this up into 4 so that you can see them. You'll find your academic year, your region ID, which is your core region, your district ID and name, your school ID and name, the type of educator. You can look at teachers. You can filter to teachers or administrators. And then you've got your educators' information, their license number, their name, their email. It lets you know if they were PYE. The team evaluation model is listed there. And their pacing license. So this educator has a professional license. It tells us that they are required to have 2 instructional observations, and it tells us that 1 has already been observed. We know that the minimum planning requires 1, and that 1 has already been observed. So that teacher has met the pacing for planning. Then we have the minimum requirements for the environment. You see that that has not been observed, the 0 there. And then a minimum for professionalism requirement is 1, and it has not been observed. At this point, nobody should have the professionalism done. And the last column is met pacing. So this is a handy report for you to look at to help your evaluators make sure that they're on pacing. If they can look at this to determine how many educators still require observations, what type, what rubrics, what they're looking for. So this is a good pacing. There are a couple of other reports in TN Compass that are helpful. There's a staff observers report, and that gives you the names and roles of all of the educators in your district who have passed either one or both of the tests to certify for evaluation. So they have either passed the teacher's certification test or the administrator certification test. Only certified staff can observe teachers or leaders. The permissions to observe can be granted using the administration tab and under staff assignments. You can add their permissions there if you need to. It will not let you add those if they are not certified. Observation summary report provides this completion status of observations and walkthroughs by school. So this is just a big summary report that gives you the total number of observations that have been done, the total that were announced, the total of scored observations, and the total walkthroughs, and the total by domain. This is a good report to use for the school at the school level. If you are providing feedback to a principal, this might be a report that you could use to talk about what their observations are looking like and if they're staying on track and if people are being observed on time. The observation summary report for the district, it is the same report as the observation summary report, but it's just at the district level. So you can look, if you want to get a quick snapshot of your district, you can see how many observations have been completed at the district level. So your next steps really are to monitor to ensure that all educators meet the required pacing. And you may want to share these reports with your observers. That will help them make sure that every teacher is getting the required number of observations to meet pacing. If they don't meet pacing, they will not have an observation score and will not generate an LOE. If they don't meet pacing, that is aggrievable. They can grieve that the procedure was not followed correctly. All of our resources are on the team website. We put this PowerPoint will be under the evaluation configuring monthly office hours, and the recording will be there, which is under the recently released tab. And then the teacher evaluation handbook under the evaluation tab gives you information about conducting observations and suggestions about ways to do that. Just in case you ever need the legal references for our observations, TCA 49302, State Board Rule 520, and State Board Policy 5.201. These are in order of the specifics. TCA basically says teachers have to be observed. State Board rules go into a little more detail, and the State Board policy is where you actually find the pacing and the details of how observations should happen. Our next monthly office hour will be in March, and we are going to talk about monitoring growth and achievement measure selections. And then we will have one in April and in May. As always, with any questions, please email teamquestions@tn.gov. All right, that one was pretty quick. I'm going to stop the recording. try to stop the recording.